I think anytime you're doing it with like any type of microneedling or mesotherapy, and it's going to look, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. This is exciting. I truly believe that biostimulators, PDRNs, there's another one, PDGF, I have not used. I think it's the growth factor. Yes,
the growth factors.
I have not used that one. I think I have maybe with microneedling before, but I've been more into like the PDRNs because with all the research I'm doing, I'm just seeing that
you want to make sure your skin tolerates it too.
Yes,
and that's what I love.
The anti-inflammatory effect of PDRNs is just it's just a game changer for
and our skin tolerates it really well. We're
skin.
not going to have any issues with accepting it or not. So the biggest question I get asked is if I have a fish allergy, can I still do PDRN?
Good question, though.
And I'm like, that is a good question. Ours is, so when you take it from the sperm of the salmon or the trout, it is very well tested. It does not have the allergy capability.
Okay.
So if you have a fish allergy, again, I would always check with your doctor and everything.
Right.
But these products will not bring that allergy out
because
because it's kind of like tested and
filtered
and these are made in like a CLIA
that's
lab
a great question though.
Because that's a big concern when it comes to that. Right. But I think I do think that this is they've been using this in Korean skincare for a long time, and it's just now kind of coming over to the States. But they I think it's if you read the Vogue magazine articles that are out, or I even laugh with my children who see it on TikTok all the time, like they know what the salmon sperm
they know what it is. Yes, because moms always talk about it.
Right. And it's just out there on like social media, and the Kardashians always laugh and say they brought the vampire facial to the surface. The vampire facial is just microneedling with PRP. That's kind of like how I look at the salmon sperm. So they're bringing, the Kardashians are using the salmon sperm. Jennifer Aniston, she's spoken about it.
They do. Yes, Jennifer Aniston has spoken about it.
Yeah, they've spoken on I think Access Hollywood or something like that about it. But, I always laugh and say it's the salmon sperm. But again, in a couple years, we're just going to be calling it mermaid facial, PDRN.
Be calling it,
like
PDRN, mermaid facial.
But,
that's amazing.
It definitely helps.
That's awesome.
And I think it really helps as you get older because it's really going to help with that hydration level that's coming into the skin.
It stimulates collagen. That's, biostimulator, really. Biohacking. That's where aesthetics is going.
And it's easy without any downtime. So that's what's really nice about it. Like you can kind of just do it, live your life, and it's going to really, really help.
And it's going to help.
Yeah. Again, it's not a one and done.
Right.
You definitely need to
You
keep
also
up.
recommend series.
Yeah.
Usually how many series do you
I would say probably depending on how you're putting it in, 3 to 6.
Okay.
So if you're doing like microneedling, I think 3, and then doing a maintenance program. Yeah. If you're doing something more along the lines of, red light, dermaplaning, ultrasound, something the rollers, something that is less invasive, I would say you maybe need a little bit more.
A little bit more. Yeah. Just staying consistent.
Again, I just think it looks,
everything in
I think it just, everybody's different. We all metabolize our products differently. I just think it's going to depend on what you need. Like, do you need acne? Do you need sun damage? Yep. Like, what are we trying to fix?
Exactly. And Melissa, do you believe providers are sometimes too aggressive with pigment-prone skin?
I don't know if I think they're too aggressive or if I just think that they don't understand the differences in the skin. So I think that kind of plays a bigger role, and maybe not even of the skin, but of the products that they're using. I think, education becomes really, really important when you look at that. I think that a lot of times.
You mean educating the providers, educating themselves?
Educating the providers, like the providers' education. And I think sometimes, people are afraid to ask and afraid to use their contacts.
Yes.
Sometimes doctors want to think they know everything, or nurse practitioners, or, estheticians sometimes are like, well, I just can't at school. I don't want to appear like I don't know something. And I don't think that they really use their reps
resources,
or their companies, or their resources, or, every company I know that I represent has wonderful online learning tools. I don't think that I think people are sometimes afraid if something happens to reach out to that rep. I'm always like, reach out to me. You can text me anytime, any hour of the day. I'll probably ask you to send me a picture because I want to see like what it looks
But
like.
you understand melanin skin
Right.
though. What if that resource doesn't understand?
I think that
melanin
if the
skin?
resource doesn't understand, like I think as a consumer, I would probably be just like if you were to go to a surgeon or a doctor, like I'd probably ask my practitioner, how much, how
much do you
people,
know?
Like, do you do you work on
Absolutely.
a lot of skin of color? Do you work on a lot of non-skin of color? Do you know a lot about acne? What's your philosophy on Accutane? Like I would kind of be a more elevated consumer when it comes into going to something I want. But I also think too that I like to look at my practitioners as being like, smarter than me. Like they should know more than what I know. Like I should be able to walk in and just say, I don't like my hyperpigmentation.
Right.
What can I do?
I don't like this
know.
and expect them to take care of you.
And so, I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, what I've been in this industry a long time and I would have no problem going in and asking that question. I think a lot of consumers don't know the right questions to ask. So I think that when it comes to a practitioner, like that's, just like a practitioner had to go to school for whatever it was that they did, like it's continuing education. Like I don't think, new things are coming out. We just talked about PDRN. PDRN is very new in the beauty, industry. Exosomes have, kind of come, started to come out as being something really new. So as those new things come out, like we owe it to our consumers to really learn about it and learn on how things
owe it to
mix
them to just learn.
And we owe, like we should owe up to like our mistakes and we should like look at things. And I think that's what a lot of people, when they are bringing in brands, it's kind of like when I kind of started my own, when I left kind of like corporate America and started back into like my own little niche business.
Right.
I really wanted things that worked really well together and that stacked together, because then I thought it made me a better provider to you, because I could say, yes, you can dermaplane, you can microneedle, you can do all these things together. This will stimulate. You can stack them, because I made sure I was educated on all that. Yes. I think that's like what the key is from a provider. So, do I think that they're too aggressive? I think that no. I just think that they probably don't know. That they sometimes can hurt skin. I also think things can happen that you're not being too aggressive and somebody maybe just wasn't like honest with you. I had a patient one time.
Right.
She was in her 20s. Okay. We were doing a chemical peel on her. She was a Fitzpatrick I, so super duper sensitive. We did our first pass and she lit up like a Christmas tree. She was super duper bright and she frosted.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I've never seen this before. This is really weird.
First pass, she frosted.
Yeah.
And tell people what is frosted.
So frosting looks just like frost on your car in the wintertime. It's like a streak
and this
of
happens
white. And it
when
doesn't happen often.
Chemical peel and it's too deep.
It's not bad or it's not bad, it's not good. It just means we hit the dermal layer of the skin. And we're not meant to go any deeper. So if you hit the dermal layer of your skin on your first pass, that's pretty rare. Like that just doesn't really happen.
Okay.
So it's kind of like well, what did you do? She was very open and honest, and she's like, oh, I dermaplaned my skin last night, and I used tretinoin.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're 22, 23. You probably don't need tret yet, and you are Fitzpatrick I, so you should never dermaplane your skin before you do a chemical peel. Yes. That's just too aggressive. So I think knowing how to stack treatments, being, asking the right questions to that patient, because this was a training and we weren't going through the whole, patient intake form probably like we should have.
Right.
And luckily we never went on. We just stopped right then and there. We told her not to use the aftercare towelettes because she had plenty of,
she can't go.
She had plenty of, acid on her face, and and it turned out being just fine.
Just fine.
So I think it's
you
more
knew
knowing.
You knew to stop. You knew to intervene. And
I think that, I think that knowing your right ingredients and really taking up, all the education possibilities you have. Like every company offers webinars. I'm a really big believer of maybe you're not a surgeon and maybe you're not going to be using this product after surgery and you're going to use it after microneedling or whatever, but still attend the webinar because knowledge is power.
Oh, and knowledge is power. And I don't think
pick up stuff.
I don't think providers are leveraging like enough how much learning and knowledge are there in these webinars.
Right.
Oh, it is so amazing.
Right.
If I'm not doing a like a course, I'm doing a webinar. I am so big at what, because I always learn something new. Always.
And I say that too, like when I go, everybody should get trained at least once or twice a year on the product, at least. Even if you carry it all the time, because you will pick up something new that you didn't get the last time.
Didn't know.
Right.
Yes.
And like a tip or a trick or something. So it's like take really good advantage of your reps and take advantage of the portals that they have and take advantage of the online learning. If you hear, like I, immediately went out when I started learning about PDRN and read the Vogue magazine article because I wanted to know. I looked up what celebrities were using it. I YouTubed a bunch of stuff. I TikToked it. Look up and see what people are saying. Yeah. And then, I'm not a big WebMD or Google thing, but I am a really big one of asking my practitioners that I deal with of, hey, have you heard of this? Or, call me if you have a problem. We'll find out. I might not know the answer, but I can find out for you.
I say this every day. I mean, we don't know everything. No one does, but let's learn together.
And tell, use those tools that you have. Use those ones. Don't wait for 4 days and hope it gets better. Call immediately or text immediately.
Yes, your resources.
And use them. So so I do think, I go back. I like to have faith that they're not being too aggressive on purpose. I just think that they, sometimes don't stop when they need to stop, or I sometimes think that maybe they're not aggressive enough in some situations where they're a little bit more fearful of skin of color when they don't need to be. And I think that makes skin of color patients a little bit more fearful of going and getting treatment.
Yes. Yeah. What's your philosophy on less is more when it comes to skin of color?
I think that slower is probably more. So we're, I think
slower, not less,
not
necessarily.
less, but just slower. Because I think you're not sure on how that skin's going to respond. And the skin's not the same. So Indian skin is actually tougher to treat than African American skin because Indian skin doesn't kind of follow the same pattern. There's a little bit more oil. There's a little bit different, fluctuations in color. There's a little fluctuations of response to it. So I'm a little bit more nervous when I'm treating Indian skin and even Cuban skin for that matter, because Cuban skin looks very, very white.
Yes.
But they have very deep skin undertones.
They have very deep skin undertones.
So you really have to kind of look. So it's not less is more. It's just maybe we, take a step back and we don't do a booster maybe with that first peel.
Slower, just like you said.
Yeah, and we see how their skin reacts. And then, maybe we don't do like a dermaplane and a peel at the same time because we want to see how their skin comes up. So where, I laugh and say all the time, again, I'm in my 50s. I've been in this industry for a really long time. Yeah. I'll stack anything at any time.
Right.
I'm really good if something, God forbid, went wrong. I would ask the question of what I should do.
Yeah.
But I would never treat a patient like I would do that to myself. I would be a little bit more, fearful that I want to make sure if you're a skin of color that we usually don't add a booster in the beginning. And we usually won't do the tox and the booster combination in the beginning. So just slower. I think like from a less is more standpoint when it comes to home care, maybe. But again, I think it's just more of a slower rollout. So I would probably never send anyone home with 2 treatments. I want to make sure that you tolerate the first one, you're working with it really well before then we introduce something new in.
I want to get to these questions before we're going to wrap up here soon, but this question is very dear to me. How do you think aesthetic providers, injectors, estheticians can check their own biases and gaps in training, with melanin skin, and really start delivering care confidently and safe? I think you touched upon it a little bit with the education. I think
confidence. I think you really need to be confident in what you're doing, and you need to.
But it comes from learning and doing.
It comes from learning, and I think it comes from experience. I mean, I tell all my people, especially if they're just starting out, with a new service or a new industry, play around. This is when you call your friends in. This is when you do little model announcements and bring people in and really learn how to do the treatment before you open it up to like everybody in your practice, because you want to be comfortable. You want to know like what issues and problems that can happen. You want to test the limit a little bit, you know, and see like what you need to stop and do
from
things
what I
with.
see, Melissa, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't think enough providers are treating enough skin of color to be like confident enough, especially like, I mean, most that talk to me at least and want to be more confident in treating skin of color, they just haven't like done enough of it. But I think when you mentioned bringing in models, testing knowing your limits, and knowing what you need to.
Really like embracing your community.
Yes.
So like we're all on this together. So like I know I'll have people that will be like, oh, I'm starting this new business out. Do you know, and I think I'm going to have like skin of color, or I think I'm going to have, you know, teenagers or something. Yeah. Like I'm always like, well, why don't you call so-and-so or so-and-so and talk to them, because they're doing this every single day. Yes. They can like, you know, help you. And it's not like, there's plenty of business for everyone out there.
There is.
Like it's
collaboration.
Really, right. Collaboration, community, really talking to them, like what's working for them really, really well, I think is kind of the key. You know, I talk to like all my colleagues all the time. I have a really great, you know, network of resources in this industry with reps in the same brands that I represent and in other brands that are represented, because we can, you know, learn.
Yes, that's collaboration.
Yeah, it's collaboration. So I think that people...
It goes a long way.
I think that people are fearful, but I think the reverse can be true too. I think sometimes that skin of color is fearful of working on non-skin of color. And I think
the trust isn't like fully there yet.
Right. Like, I think it's like, well, I'm not sure. I know how to work on my skin color, but I'm not sure on how to work on the other skin color. And I just think, again, like you cannot be educated enough. But it's, you know, I also think that really practicing. And I think that's where people, when they bring in a new brand or they bring in a new type of treatment, like they just want to jump in and do it, which is great. But I'm always like, you really should, you know, like here, we're going to learn it. You know, we'll do 1 or 2. We're going to learn this. But like in the next week, I really want you to do like 3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
You're comfortable.
Exactly.
You see the issues that's going with it. And you know, and it helps, because then you can do some fun advertising, you know, with it too. Like watch me peel. Like I'm a really big believer of doing that. Or
yes, I see that on your Instagram. Yeah. Every time you're peeling, you put it out there.
Like watch me peel.
Yeah. That builds trust.
Well, and it does, because it's like, this is what can happen. And sometimes I peel a lot, and sometimes I just flake. You know, same thing if you're doing the PDRN, or if you're doing like a microneedle or an IPL, like whatever it is you're doing. I love the model guide, like call in people. And just practice on them, because I think the more you actually do the treatment, the more confident you're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And confidence comes from doing.
And really, most of the treatments that we've talked about today, there's not going to be any complications. Like these are, you know, tried and true, you know, things that just work. And if, you know, you do, it's not being fearful. And I think sometimes practitioners are fearful of practicing that treatment, because they might not be confident. So it's like be confident. Like you just need to be really, really confident and believe in your expertise and keep up with the education.
Absolutely. Keep up with the education. Yeah. How can we help as providers? How can we help our population of color just trust us more? Because I see this even as a Black provider, I see that the trust, like, they haven't really trusted our industry yet. I don't know maybe they just haven't seen us do enough treatment on them, but the trust isn't fully there yet. Like I would love to see it. Hopefully with the 3 different podcasts, we'll change a lot of that.
I think because they've been burnt.
The trust, they've been burnt.
Burnt
emotionally and physically.
Right. They've gotten PIH. They've gotten irritation. They've gotten like some scarring. They've gone into treatments where, you know, that I don't want to say harmed them, but like didn't give them the results that they were hoping for. So I do think like, you know, it's a little bit more fearful on their end. I think the patient consultation is huge. Even if you're not doing a treatment at that time. So whether you know, charge, you know, a small fee, but you come in and you talk about like what those plans are. You know, I think that's where marketing materials come into play, like show before and after pictures. show your results that you've done. I don't think enough practitioners have their own before and after books. I think they rely on the brand to provide those. But
say it out loud.
I mean, but if you take and most people would be happy to, give you a picture of results. But if you have your own book of before and afters of the treatments that you've done, I think that speaks volumes, and that's how you build trust.
Yep.
Giving brochures, I'm a really big believer. You don't have to believe me. Let's do it. Let's walk through this process, and we'll learn. And then you'll see that what I'm telling you is true. I don't have to tell you I carry the best peel. I'm going to do this peel, and you're going to see that it's the best peel.
Yes.
So, and I think that as a provider, we need to tell that to our
And I love that so much about you. I haven't purchased or brought in practice any product you recommended without trying it.
Right.
Because
I just think
it goes back to
results.
trust. There's a way you do it that just builds so much trust between you and I. And I think everyone should learn, all of us should learn from that.
Right.
And really,
And take it home. And most people aren't, and I always like to think of myself as that consumer. You can give me some reading materials to take home, and chances are I'm not going to read that brochure.
No.
I might even glance at it, or I might find it in my purse a couple weeks later.
Exactly.
I want you to sit down and say, okay, you're worried about this. This is what we're going to do. And I'm going to show you here. These are people that I've treated that had this. These are things that we've done that have done this. And that's really going to make, I think the consumer feel, or the client feel more at ease.
Yeah.
And then it's going to also build your confidence, because how to treat that patient. And
Absolutely.
I think sometimes it comes down to confidence.
Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with me today. With us, with our providers, with everyone listening to the Treat Different podcast. I want to see your insights, your compassion, your knowledge, everything you have to offer is what the industry needs more of at this time.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It was fun.
It was great, and we had fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Now,
I adore working with you.
Oh, I love working with you. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Now, tell everyone listening, the providers, their med spas, how can we get a hold of you?
So you can always reach out to me at beautyhuntersmedical@gmail.com. I also have an Instagram page. It's beauty_hunters_medical on Instagram. So feel free to reach out to me there. You can contact me. My phone number is 614-746-8808. Or they can always reach out to you, and you can give them my information as well.
Perfect. So, I would love to do that. Yeah. Yep. So guys, reach out to Melissa, med spa owners, injectors. If you have any questions, Fitzpatrick 1 to 6, she's got you. She's available, she's knowledgeable, and she'll do all you can to help you out. If she doesn't know, you're going to learn it together. Thank you. To our listeners, if you learned something new, felt seen, or felt inspired to treat differently, please share this episode with a friend, colleague, or a med spa owner. You can follow me, Fatou_aesthetics, on Instagram, and learn more about my work at Treat Different. If you're listening from Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you watch this full episode on YouTube at Fatou Aesthetics. And remember, treating melanin skin isn't about caution. It's about confidence. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, treat different. Until next time, bye-bye.